Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Residential Real Estate Broker Industry Council online engagement session. One of many opportunities stakeholders will have to engage with the Industry Council moving forward. My name is Brian Dewey. I'm the Communications and Connections Manager here at RECA, and I'll be the host of the engagement session today. Now, before I pass things off to the Industry Council Chair, I just want to briefly cover how the session will unfold. First, the chair will go through a brief presentation outlining the Industry Council, its activities and priorities going forward. And this will be followed by a question and answer session. If you have a question for the Industry Council, you can ask it at any time using the Q&A window. You'll see the button to open the window at the bottom of your menu screen in Zoom. If you have Zoom in full screen, you may have to move your cursor to the top of the screen to make the menu pop down. When the presentation is concluded, I will ask the Industry Council Chair your questions. Please note, this is an engagement session for the Residential Real Estate Broker Industry Council. So if you have a question that falls under the jurisdiction of another Industry Council, please save that question for the online engagement session for that Industry Council, which they'll hold in the coming weeks. We'll have the dates for those events up at the end of the presentation. If your question falls under the jurisdiction of the board, please note that the board has had its online engagement session, which was on April 14th, which you can view for yourself on RECA's website. Your question may have been answered in that session, or you can also email the board directly with further questions at board@reca.ab.ca. Now, with that housekeeping out of the way, and without further ado, I will pass things off to Sano Stanti, the Chair of the Residential Real Estate Broker Industry Council. Welcome, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Brian. Good morning and welcome to our first Residential Real Estate Broker Industry Council engagement session. My name's Sano Stanti and I'm the chair of the Residential Council. This morning, our agenda will cover Bill 20 and the industry councils. We will introduce you to our new council members, define the role of the industry councils. We'll discuss council activities, what we've been up to, and we'll further discuss our council priorities going forward. And then we'll be open for questions. Our residential council is made up of 5 members. There are 2 public members appointed by the Minister of Service Alberta and 3 licensees who have been elected from the residential sector. During our first RECA engagement session, you had the pleasure to meet our amazing chair, Patty McLeod, and her team of directors, amazing as well. So I'd just like to congratulate us also, because we've been blessed with a dream team of both elected and appointed members to our residential council. So I now have the honor of introducing them to you, starting with, and I'll just go clockwise, Erica Ringses. Erica, do you want to just introduce yourself and say a couple of words about your background?
Certainly. Thank you very much, Sano. And I'm pleased to be a member of this dream team. I hope I live up to the title. So I'm Erica Ringsize. I am a labor and employment lawyer by trade. And I really come to this council with an interest in governance, and this is an incredible opportunity for the real estate industry. And certainly, my experience with real estate is from the consumer side, obviously as a homeowner myself, and having gone through the purchasing process, but also in a prior role that I held, I oversaw a large relocation program at a large multinational organization, and so I had the opportunity to engage a lot in anytime we were addressing the relocation program, the global mobility program, moving expats, selling houses, all of that. I had an opportunity to be involved. And so it's definitely an industry that, although I'm not a part of it officially in my line of work, it's very interesting to me, and it touches upon so many lives. It's so the largest purchase most of us will ever make is in real estate. And so I look forward to an opportunity to work to make the industry what it can be.
Thank you, Erica. Bill Briggs.
Hi, I'm a 35-year industry member. I'm a past president of the Edmonton board and of the Alberta Real Estate Association, and I'm a broker of a large brokerage in Edmonton with about 170 sales associates. Very pleased to have been elected to the residential council, and I am also the residential council's appointment to the board of directors. So I look forward to all the questions and dealing with you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Brad Hamden is one of the other appointed members. Brad?
Yeah, thanks, Dano, and good morning, everyone. Yeah, I'm also a public member and very, very pleased to be on this council. My name is Brad Hamden, and I'm a born and raised Edmontonian, and have worked for the past 17 years at the University of Alberta, currently in the role of General Counsel and University Secretary, so responsible for all legal and governance matters at the university. So this is an area I have a deep interest in and have some familiarity with. Prior to working at the U of A, I started my legal career in private practice in Edmonton, focusing on residential real estate. So although many years ago, I do have roots in the sector, and I'm really, really honored to be part of the council and look forward to working with certainly the dream team and all of our other stakeholders to move the industry forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Brad. And last but certainly not least is our other Brad Kopp.
Thanks, Dano. Good morning, everyone. My name is Brad Kopp. I am a licensed real estate agent in Hinton, Alberta. Very pleased to have been elected to our industry council. And I've worked both on the organized real estate side as far up as the president of the Alberta Real Estate Association, and done some work at the Canadian Real Estate Association on committees as well. Very happy to be here, and looking forward to feedback and engagement with the industry.
Thank you, Brad. So I think you can all see what we mean. We do have a dream team, and I'm really delighted to be working with all of them. So again, my name is Sano Stanti. I have been an associate broker for 35 years, selling residential and commercial real estate, and I continue to operate a family team, including my two sons. And I'm active in the business every day. I spent years as a director of CREA's MTC, supporting Realtor.ca, many years as a director of the Calgary Real Estate Board, including a term as president in 2011, and then recently as chair of the Attainable Homes Calgary, which is a City of Calgary municipal corporation. I can tell you that in the first few meetings, if there are any indication of what we can expect, I've got high expectations for this council. So let's get started. A bit of a review on how we arrived at where we're at. So the Real Estate Amendment Act 2020. This came into force on December 1st, 2020. The Act amendments were passed in June, but did not come into force until December 1st of 2020. During that time, Service Alberta drafted new regulations and scouted for public appointees, which you've just met. And RECA had to run an election for all the industry councils. It modernized the governance structure. The old governance structure was in place since 1996. And so both the industry and the province have changed a lot since then, and we were due for an update. It allowed each industry council to be now responsible for regulating their own industry sectors. Industry councils can make decisions for their own sectors instead of a single council or board making decisions for all sectors as it was in the past. This is similar to the structure of the Alberta Insurance Council that they have in place. It also allowed industry council elections to be held in November of 2020. So they had 12 positions to elect across all the industry councils. 3 people were elected for the Residential Real Estate Broker Industry Council, Bill Briggs, Brad Kopp, and myself, while RECA Ringses and Brad Hamden were appointed by the minister. The role of each council is to set licensing requirements. So we determine what makes someone eligible to obtain a license and to continue to practice residential real estate in Alberta. To set education requirements. So what courses or programs potential licensees are required to take to obtain a license, and what programs existing licensees are required to take to retain their license. To set the standards of practice, the Industry Council establishes the rules that residential licensees must follow in their day-to-day practice and enforce the standards of practice. So some of the powers to discipline licensees has now been passed from the executive director and the old council to the current industry councils, including the ability to suspend someone's license. The power to grant a lifetime withdrawal application sits with each industry sector council. And now it's interesting that if there are any allegations of fraud in a lifetime withdrawal application, the industry council must reject the lifetime withdrawal application. And this is another notable change to the Act. Please note that all of the industry councils will be working together along with the board to ensure requirements and standards are as consistent as possible. We formed the Chairs Roundtable, which meets on a regular basis, and its role is to coordinate many of these commonalities amongst the various councils. So what have we been up to for the first 154 days, I guess? Well, the onboarding process. All board and industry council members underwent a multi-day onboarding process in December to educate and familiarize ourselves with RECA. We learned about the industry, our regulation, about the history of regulation in Alberta, the current and ongoing issues, and a whole lot more. We took governance training, and this was a legislated requirement and arose from that, from the KPMG report. It involved a multi-day intensive governance training program and best practices review. We appointed a chair and vice chair and appointed a member to the board of directors. Bill Briggs was appointed to the board, that is the big RECA board. Brad Kopp was appointed vice chair, and I was appointed the chair of our residential council. We also began our stakeholder engagement, and I can tell you that started almost day one. We had discussions with most all of the leaders of organized real estate. We organized this engagement session that we're currently in, and it'll be the first of many. We posted a strategic planning feedback form on RECA's website, and I'd urge you to take note of it and use it to input any ideas that you have about RECA's strategic plan. We created an industry council email addresses for each industry council, and ours, if you'd like to note, is residentialic@reca.ca. So that's residentialic@reca.ca. And we're also developing an upcoming broker forum that we're just in the throes of organizing. So stay tuned for that. We began our divestment process planning. RECA, as you know, must divest itself of licensing education by December 1st, 2022. So there's a multitude of factors to consider in divesting education. We know that we must adopt a consistent framework for all the councils and the board to work with to ensure that the divestment process works without a hitch. Our council, along with the board and the other industry councils and administration, have been working to develop this framework. So there's been a lot of work. And I guess, understanding that while RECA has been fully operational, while we've been subject to essentially kind of a leadership pause for the last 18 months prior to December 2021, I sort of liken it to returning to the cabin after being away for the year. We're just sort of dusting off the furniture and everybody's getting comfortable again. So you can imagine that we're all picking up the pieces from when the previous council left off. So we first collated a list of that encompassed all the potential topics to deal with on council. And we started with a list of well over 40 items derived from stakeholders that could populate an agenda. And this obviously required us to focus our work plan. And the first thing we did was to double the number of meeting dates so that in the first quarter, just to maintain and provide the bandwidth to discuss these topics. Then we narrowed our council's initial priorities using these following general guidelines, mainly, to maintain strategic items on each agenda. And you might recall that this was a major point in the KPMG report. So we're trying to maintain a strategic item on every agenda. We want to keep an eye to where the industry is going, always keep looking forward. We want to focus on, who is the future realtor and what will be required of them and to service and protect the public in 5 or 10 years from now, because that is who we're educating and that's who we're licensing. We also discussed what is the low-hanging fruit, like items that can make an immediate positive impact. And we discussed what items are required by regulation. So with all of this was informed by our consultation with stakeholders. And then once we established these priorities and narrowed them down, we provided the board with these industry council priorities, the key risks, as well as what we deemed to be the top attributes for the new CEO. And that's something that Chair Patty had asked of every industry council. We're investigating how a mentorship program might be instituted for new residential licensees. So this was more of a long-term strategic discussion. It's something that it's been talked about in the industry for a long time, and council is exploring how that could work by understanding best practices from other regimes. Stakeholders could further consult or will be further consulted should any mentorship program be proposed. We reviewed a historical analysis of RECA's education programs, the RMS, and the Real Estate Board rules requiring mandatory disclosure of accepted conditional offers. Now, these three issues are among the first to be considered by the Residential Council. They're all on our current agenda, and after some careful analysis, Council will determine if any action needs to be taken. If any action is proposed, stakeholders will be consulted prior to implementing any changes. And remember that any rule changes in the first 2 years must be approved by the Minister of Service Alberta. So going forward, we need to finalize education competencies and harmonization with other provincial jurisdictions across Canada. The competencies have been developed nationally to harmonize labor mobility between the provinces, and that's a federal requirement. All stakeholders will receive a survey about the national competencies within the next week or two. These competencies will lay out the minimum competencies. Each council will finalize their competencies after the survey feedback is taken into consideration. And I can tell you that I know these competencies are establishing a much higher standard for education than the previous education standards. And many of you will find some comfort in that. So divestment, council must establish the education divestment process with the other industry councils and the board. As we mentioned before, RECA must divest itself of the licensing education by December 1st, 2022. But that doesn't mean that it can't happen before then. And we won't delay any process in the divestment, but there is a lot of work to properly hand off the education and to hand it off in an open, fair, and transparent process. So first, we have to set the education standards that any and every third-party course provider will be required to uphold. And then once we set up a process for this divestment, this must be approved by the Minister of Service Alberta. We need to establish the competencies and learner outcomes, again, considering the needs of a future practitioner. We must establish the core requirements for all course providers. RECA then must create a clear process for course providers to apply to offer the education. And any divestment date from the Industry Council must be approved by the minister again. So elections, that's the other thing we need to focus on. Our council must consult with RECA board on Industry Council election bylaws. So these bylaws will determine how elections will run in the future and who will be eligible to run in them. The board must submit these bylaws to the minister again this summer, and our Residential Industry Council will provide our input on this matter. We'll continue again with our stakeholder engagement. Please know that aside from these sessions, you can email us anytime at residentialic@reca.ca. So that email address is residentialic@reca.ca. And again, fill out the strategic planning form on the RECA website. If you're a broker, you should join the brokers forum when we get them up and running this spring. So on our agenda now, we're reviewing policy on non-reporting of conditional sales. And as we mentioned before, if any new rules are proposed, we will consult with you before we make any changes. We're reviewing the policy on the RMS. And again, if any new rules are proposed, we'll consult with you and all stakeholders. So that is really our initial work plan. Some of you are involved in other sectors of the industry, and I encourage you to attend those industry-specific sessions as well. Please make note of these dates and register for these on the RECA website. And yeah, there we go. So with this overview that we are working on, of what we're working on, I now welcome your questions, suggestions, and any input that you have for us. I'll do my best to answer any that are relevant to our Residential Industry Council, but please recall that the RECA board deals with the overall RECA administration issues, and I'm really not able to answer those, but I'm pleased to refer them to the large board. So with that, Brian, over to you, and we'll open the slate for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Fantastic. We have a few questions, more are coming in now. To start things off, sorry, just a bit of a glitch there. One quick question about the disciplinary powers of the Industry Council. Someone is asking if there's criminality found in an investigation, a hearing, or a lifetime withdrawal, will it be sent to a local police agency?
You know, I believe that we always have that requirement that if we find any allegations or of fraud, that they are referred. I believe that that's the case in any event. And I don't believe that that's a new condition of the board.
Yeah, I think you're right there. We that's something that RECA has always done in our investigations and have in the past, and have a great relationship with different law enforcement across the province.
Mm-hmm. I think the difference that I pointed out earlier is that in the past we would accept a lifetime withdrawal, but now if there are any hints or allegations of fraud, then we cannot accept a lifetime withdrawal. We must wait until any investigation has been completed.
Great, yeah. Another question is maybe just to talk more about the education divestment process so far. Someone's asking, how did we conduct an analysis on education without talking to the industry?
Well, we have been speaking to the industry and will continue to speak to the industry. Again, we have been working on the competencies, and that it has been, I can tell you, it's been enlightening for me, not having been involved previously in this process, but the amount of work that has gone into developing competencies, and knowing that in the past we hadn't fully developed them. And I know that was something that was mentioned in the KPMG report, but there has been a lot of work go into this process. I know that it's been a concerted effort with all of the agencies, or the regulatory agencies across the country. So they're harmonizing these, and so it's been there's been a lot of work to harmonize them. And then once that template is in place, then we will be looking at it. And I can tell you that we have an attitude to increase, to raise the competencies. I know that the attitude of our board, at least, is to ensure that those competencies are as high as possible, so that a new licensee, when they hit the ground, when they're licensed, they hit the ground running, and they're able and competent to carry out their duties as a licensed realtor.
Great, yeah. I know that everyone on the industry council and RECA administration and the board has been spending countless hours on education divestment. It's quite a project.
I also like to add to that the divestment is not only, it has to be done in concert with the other industry councils. So the divestment process has to be, we have to engage the other councils so that we do it in concert with them, as well as the national group. And so some of the councils have that, are ahead of others, but some don't have one in place. For example, I believe property management is just getting started on that process. So we need to work in concert with everyone to get these done, so that the industry is well served.
For sure. Just a quick one. Maybe, you know what? I think it's probably fair that you answer this. People are asking if you have the ability to see all the questions, Mr. Chair.
I do have the ability to see all the questions, but I'm not focused on them. I'm waiting for you to sort of lob them to me, Brian. So
for sure.
I have a few things.
So yeah. I thought it best to let everyone know that you do have access to these questions.
Yeah. I'm not focused on them, but I'm because I have a few things to focus on at the moment. So forgive me for that.
Yes. The another quick question, or maybe not so quick, is will this council consider banning transaction brokerage, as it does not serve the best interests of the public, according to this asker?
Yeah, it's not something that was high on our list. It was on the list. I mentioned earlier we had a list of about 40 items that we could tackle. Transaction brokerage didn't make the cut, the initial cut, but we're certainly willing to discuss it if it becomes a priority. And I would urge you to, perhaps the best way to get something to make the short list is to speak to your real estate board, because they have the ability to collate these concerns. And you know, if they know that they've got 20 members or 100 members or whatever, or a majority of their membership concerned about a particular item, then it bears more weight with us, and we'll pay more attention to it. So we appreciate that all of these are concerns, and they're all relevant, but we have only so much time and only so much bandwidth to deal with them. So we have to prioritize them and you know, deal with the most important ones first.
Absolutely. A couple of questions coming in with more detail being sought of the education divestment process. Maybe you can just go over it quickly again, is how will the third-party education provider be selected?
Well, they won't so much be selected as they will meet the criteria that we set out. So we'll have minimum criteria. It'll be an open process. We're committed to make it an open, transparent process so that we get the best providers available in Alberta to provide that. And it won't be closed to anyone, but they'll have to meet minimum criteria. And we don't know what those are yet. We haven't developed them yet, but you know, I hope that answers the question. The criteria will just simply be a set of minimum criteria, but there'll be, you know, a fulsome set of criteria that they'll have to meet.
For sure. Question about how to register for the online sessions. I just want to let everyone know that if you're looking for a registration link for the other industry councils, you can find it in the on the RECA website. If you go to the About RECA menu, you'll see a board and industry councils section, and each industry council, you'll find the residential, or you'll find the registration link for each one on their webpage. Okay. Go through the questions here. Someone has a question. One we missed at the beginning. Is a review plan to identify areas where RECA may be enforcing from information bulletins versus the act or the rules? I think we've had this question come up as well earlier. People are just wondering how the industry council will go about enforcing with its new powers.
Could you just state that again? I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch the first part of it. How?
Bill, how will the industry council be enforcing? Will they be enforcing the rules using the actual act and rules, or will there be interpretations that they'll be enforcing from?
I'm not quite sure how to. I'm not quite sure how to interpret the question. I think, and I guess I'm asking for a bit of grace because we're fairly new at the job. For example, the section 50, I believe it's 54, where, you know, lifetime withdrawals, we actually haven't had to deal with some of these things yet, and they're fairly rare. So we will be, I can say this, we'll be acting as consistently as possible to enforce the rules, so that there's required to be less interpretation. And I hope that is more to the point of the question.
I think so. Lots of comments that aren't questions, just have to go through. Will you be consulting all the boards with all the boards? I assume they mean the local real estate boards that have education programs already set up.
Any of the boards that have education programs set up will have to meet the minimum requirements. I'm not sure how a board could have a program set up currently, because we haven't established the competencies and the minimum criteria. And so once we have that, that will be laid out for providers to develop a program on. And of course, that program will have be developed on those competencies. So I don't know how you could develop one without having those in hand. And because they haven't been completed yet, we'll have to wait for that to happen so that we can set them out.
Great. Another question about education seems to be the most asked topic. People are asking if from your knowledge, if anything in Bill 62 would affect education.
Well, I believe, again, Bill 62 is not, that really should be the main board that would speak to that. But Bill 62 just provided clarity. I can say that. It just provided clarity on the divestment process and the rules for it going forward.
Absolutely. Question about how the council gets information. How is the council ensuring that it gets accurate information? They seem to think that in the past that perhaps there wasn't a wide swath of sources for information getting to the council. How does this council plan on making sure it gets accurate information?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. I won't apologize for the past council. I won't take credit for the past council. I shouldn't, but I can tell you that this is one of the engagement. This engagement session is one of the methods that we're planning. That email address, and people can reach out to me independently, or anyone on our council. I know Bill and Brad are, their emails are open, their phones open, and Erica and Brad as well. So we're not a closed shop. We're listening. The items that we populated on our agenda were items that we were aware of as issues in the industry and in consultation with the industry. So we'll continue to reach out. We've reached out to all of the boards to get their input on these topics. We'll continue to engage with them at every opportunity and have a cordial and open relationship with them.
Absolutely, great. A few people are asking if the emails that you keep mentioning go directly to you guys or if they go through staff. I just want to let everyone know that in the interest of transparency, the emails go to staff and they go to the industry council as well. They see every email that comes into that email address, just so everyone knows.
Yeah. And on that note, I just want to make a note of the tremendous help that we've received from staff. They have been nothing but professional and extremely competent. And I don't know how we could have got to where we are even, without their help. So we're extremely grateful for all the help that staff has provided. They've been outstanding.
Absolutely, thanks. So another question is, they keep coming in so fast, it jumps out of the way. Here we are. So another person's talking about, and you may have a similar answer as you have to other issues. Someone's asking if we will, the council will address the good character policy in terms of licensing.
Well, I'm not really sure what the good character policy is referring to.
Oh, it's the policy that's the good character policy that's applied to people who want a license. Make sure they're of good character before they're deemed to be eligible to get a license.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, nothing in that respect will change from the previous regime. So I can only say that we are. The tone of this council, I know, is to increase the competencies and level of licensees that are coming into the industry. So with all of that, we'll continue to maintain the existing standards that are in place and hopefully improve them.
Absolutely. And here's a question about the about purchase contracts and listing contracts. They're wondering if it's on the agenda for this industry council to have any sort of standard purchase contract that goes out from RECA or this industry council.
I know that was on our big list, and it's something that we will put on the agenda. I hope that it gets on soon. I know that it's some of these things become more pertinent as the market changes. I think that's a fairly important one, and I'd look forward to getting it on as time permits. And again, I'm not looking for excuses, but we have only limited bandwidth to deal with the issues at hand. So, and we have a lot of work to do. So I'd ask for, your patience while we deal with the most important issues. And you've identified the most important ones. They are education, non-reporting of conditional sales, RMS, and all of these will, compete for our attention. But these are the ones that we have on our plate right now, and we'll, as we can get them checked off, we'll continue to have the bandwidth to deal with these other issues as they emerge.
Yes, thank you. Someone else asking, will the industry council minutes be posted publicly for everyone to see?
I believe they are. Are they not, Brian? I believe all the minutes and the agendas are.
I'm not sure at this moment, but I know we do post them publicly once they're approved and ready for publication.
Yeah, absolutely. If they're not, I'm sure that we can ensure that they are. There's no reason why they wouldn't be.
Okay. Questions flying in here. Another thing, someone's asking if reporting of active versus pending is on your agenda.
Yeah, I mean, again, I work in the industry daily, and I'm well aware of the issues, but we need to, I can say this, it's not an issue in every regime. It's more pertinent in some than others, but it is on our agenda. We are looking at it right now, and we're going to look at all sides of that issue to come up with a solution that works for both the industry and the public, most importantly, the public, but still protects the integrity of the industry. So it's an important issue. I mean, I'm faced with that issue every day. I deal with it. We all do. Brad does and Bill does, and it affects consumers. So it's on the top of our list. We're dealing with it.
Great. Another person asking, will RECA return to the use of advisory committees in the future? I guess you can only speak for this industry council. But...
Well, I know that we're already discussing, having subcommittees, and we will have engagement, advisory committees for particular issues. I know that we're talking about, for example, we may have an advisory commission or committee for the RMS. We want to get the industry's input on that, and I know that we need to get broad input on it. We're sort of picking up where we left off. I believe that RECA was in the process of doing that when they sort of stopped the clock. So absolutely, we will do as much as we can to reach out to the industry and have their input. We want their input.
Great. Another question. A question that has to do with sellers versus buyers and how they're handled in the industry. Does the industry council have plans to review or have a higher level of consideration to buyers' rights in a real estate deal? Not sure exactly where they're coming from on this one, but
could you just repeat the last part of that, Brian?
Yeah. Does the Residential Industry Council have plans to review and allow for a higher level of consideration to buyers' rights in a real estate deal?
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think I understand where that's coming from, and it has to do with the non-reporting of conditional sales, and certainly it's one of the issues that we are going to take into consideration. that particular topic, is being discussed, and we hope to come to a solution that works for everybody. But when we make a solution, when we come to a decision, we won't finalize that until we have input from the industry again. So we'll reach out before we implement anything.
I suppose here's a question in the interest of an independent election process. Do you know if anything's going to be done to ensure that current industry council members or RECA staff or any other stakeholder does not unduly influence an election process?
I don't, that won't happen. I don't believe that has happened, and I'm certain that won't happen in the future. I can say that there's been rhetoric, but I can tell you that council, we run administration. It's not the other way around, and that administration has not influenced the election other than perform the administrative duties that they're required to do. And from what I can see, they've done an excellent job of performing their duties. So going forward, we'll make the changes that we need to ensure that those elections are as fair and equitable as possible. I'm not sure that they weren't to begin with, but we will review them now that we have the chance to do that, and ensure that they're, and we'll do that again with input from all of the stakeholders where we'd like your input. So tell us what you think those rules should be, and because we want to know, and we'll include your input into our process.
Great. So another question, what is the council doing to ensure that they do not stray from the regulatory mandate?
Yeah, we know that that's one of the items in the KPMG report was to stay in our lane, and I guess we're just fully aware of that. And I guess that's one of the reasons that the priorities that are on our agenda now are there. We want to review those. I can tell you that some of the other issues that came up that were on the long list are advertising, and those items need to be addressed. But we need to revise those rules, review them. Just anecdotally, I can see in the industry that it's getting a bit haphazard, and I think we need to tighten up those rules. But again, if we do that, we'll do that with full consultation with the industry.
Great. Great. So someone asking about engagement, about how we seem to be mentioning a lot. They're wondering if that's a direction from you, Mr. Chair, or is it a board direction? Is it a RECA direction? And they want to know if it will continue after your term is complete.
I'm not going to take credit. I won't take credit for it. No, our entire council leans that way. I know Chair Patty, that's her directive. I know that's the minister's directive. So, certainly if I stepped off, or when our council steps off, I know that will continue. And to that point, I guess I could mention also that Bill 62 also dealt with, the timing of terms, so that the terms, so that we didn't all step off at the same time on this council. So that was one of the clarifications that came into effect with Bill 62. Some of the things that we'll be doing are setting up, skills matrices so that we can attract the right candidates to the next council. Not only and you have more of an ability to do that with the appointed than you do with the elected, but still there are some levers that you can pull on the elected process where you can attract candidates that have a certain skill set that you require for this position. So, we're doing everything we can to ensure that this council and the next council continues to act in an open, has the right skills and has the right attitude towards running RECA, or at least our council. Yeah.
Great. Just going through these questions. There's a lot of questions that pertain to the board, particularly if they are budget questions or questions of that nature or of RECA-wide policy nature. Please send those questions to board@reca.ab.ca if you have questions that have anything to do with the board, especially budget questions, just so everyone knows.
And some of these questions, I mean, so a lot of them will be referred to the large board. If they are not anonymous, we can respond to them also.
Yeah, that's great. We'll make sure every question on here gets to the appropriate body, including any questions we don't answer today. We'll make sure that the industry council here sees all the questions for sure. Let's see here. We haven't covered yet.
I just want to mention while we're waiting for those questions that, with respect to education analysis, that, the competencies were developed by a team of real estate professionals, and there is a survey that's going out to all real estate professionals, and that survey will, is with respect to learning outcomes and education framework. So you will all be included in that.
Absolutely. Another education question. Someone's asking if there'll be any grandfathering for educational and licensing requirements.
Well, certainly, yes. If you're currently licensed, you're grandfathered. I can say that. We have some work to do with respect to the different licenses. As you know, right now, to be a broker, you are required to hold a license in all commercial, residential, in all sectors. And there's some work to do to harmonize all of those going forward between the industry councils. So we don't have a solution for that yet, but it's something that is on our agenda to work on.
Great. A lot of the questions seem to have stopped coming in. We'll see. If anyone continues to have a question, please ask it if it pertains to this industry council. There are a lot of questions on here that we haven't answered that do have to do with the board, or will require more extensive follow-up, and this may not be the best forum for them. So please note that we'd love to answer your questions and get back to you. As Mr. Chair said, if you leave your name with the question, we can reach out to you. If it's an anonymous question, we don't know who to answer to. So.
Yeah, I just want to say that we are a new board, and I'll repeat that we won't take the credit for previous boards, and we won't be responsible for any actions of the previous board. We're here it's a fresh slate. I know that we do have a dream council, and we're going to do some good work, and we want your input. So please provide it. Provided it's constructive and cordial, we're happy to take it, and we invite it. We'll continue to reach out to organized real estate to obtain, to have an open line to them. And we have a lot of work to do, and we want to get it done. We want to focus on the work that we have done, and to do that, we have to kind of, check the boxes off on what we have on our agenda right now, so that we can work on the upcoming issues that I know we all have, and improve our industry, and for the benefit of the public and ourselves. So continue to reach out, please. I hope that we don't want to discourage your input. We want it. You can reach out to any of us via the email or directly if you like. I'm not going to give. We're not going to publish our cell numbers, I don't think, but we do want to hear from you, and we respect and appreciate your input. So with all of that, I hope we can continue to keep the lines of communication open. Sure.
And I think that someone had just asked a question. It says, is there anything that licensees can do to best support the future of RECA and self-regulation? And I think you just answered it, saying that engaging in forums like this, in any sort of consultation, any sort of feedback we give, reaching out to the industry council, taking part in any subcommittees you may create. That the best way to ensure self-regulation, I think, is to take part in self-regulation. And I think you put it pretty nicely there.
Yeah, absolutely, Brian. I mean, the intention of the minister is to continue to have the industry self-regulated. And to the extent that we perform, then we will continue to be self-regulated. So that's our intention. We don't want to go backwards. So it's kind of this is a bit of a test for us, and we intend to perform. So there's going to be lots of opportunities for engagement. We will have subcommittees, and we'll be looking for members to invest in them. So stay tuned, and please reach out if you have an interest in any of these topics or issues. We want you to get on board.
For sure. We still have a few minutes here. See if any more questions trickle in. Someone's asking, will we notify people via email of any changes instead of asking people to review the website? I think that I can answer that one and say that any change we make will be communicated out to the industry via email. Always has, always will. Not only email, it'll be on the website, it'll be through social media. So I encourage everyone to follow us on social media, particularly Twitter, where we post every single day, and any major decision from that day will be posted. And we directly email every one of our licensees often. So make sure your email address is correct in the MyRECA system to make sure that you actually receive our emails. We only send you important information that we think it's important for you to know from a regulatory perspective. So yeah, so just make sure you can receive our communications, because we do send them.
Yeah, Brian, and perhaps we can post our email address. Can we put it on the screen somehow? Is that possible? To make sure that we get it out for everyone. It's residentialic@reca.ca. So, and this is just the first of many. We hope to have many more of these engagement sessions. And we look forward to all of your input.
Okay.
Any more questions, Brian?
None that I think pertain to us and this industry council that I'm seeing. Anyways, there's a lot come in all at once. It's hard to read through here. If you're repeating the same question over and over again, you're not making it easy for me to grab the other ones here. And then another question, I guess you can answer, about payment of commission to outside brokers. How that's done. Is that going to be looked at by the industry council? Is that on your agenda?
That's something that will be on our agenda. That one of the issues, I know that this is probably something that's near and dear to Bill's heart, but one of the things that we've got on our agenda, our upcoming agenda, is future business models, and it takes a little. We need to be strategic. We have to anticipate future business models and how they can affect all of these things, such as payment of commissions, dealing with trust accounts, and deposits, and things like that. So it's a bit of work. It takes a little bit of time to wrap your head around, what could happen. And when you set these rules, you can't set them. You can't be reactionary, and you can't have knee-jerk reactions to, let's say, a new business model that comes into place. You've got to be very thoughtful about it and be very systemic. So I know that all of that to say that yes, we're thinking about that. It hasn't hit the agenda yet, but it will soon. and we'll be very systemic and thoughtful about how we deal with it.
Great. Lots of questions coming in about how maybe they will, if we'll have a look at the format of this engagement session and how we receive questions. And we're open to that. We are, if you have suggestions for how to improve our engagement sessions or any engagement or consultation we do, that's something we want to see and we want to look at. So let us know. Send it to that email address and let us know anything and everything you want us to know about regulation and your experience with RECA as well.
Agreed, Brian. Yeah, we certainly we can improve. It's only the first of many, and we're looking for ways to improve. So we're open to all your suggestions. And I hope you guys can appreciate. I'm not focused on the questions right now. I'm asking Brian. I've asked Brian to filter them because they come in fast and furious, and I actually have to think about them. And I've got a few other screens going on here to look at. So.
All right. Let's see here. I'm not seeing any more new questions coming in. And again, more if oh, here's one that's will the council define terms more clearly for notifying RECA within a reasonable time? Maybe that's a board question, actually.
Yeah, I think I know where that may apply. Again, you know, one of our goals is to have less interpretation in the rules. So I think that falls under that, and hopefully we can cover that off under that scope.
Yes, and another question, one of our finalists probably, we're running a little low on time. Someone's asking about not just pre-licensing education that RECA is divesting from, someone's asking about the after-license education. They want to ask if RECA is handling that or if that's also part of the divestment process.
I didn't quite catch that. Was it the relicensing?
Yeah, like any education after you get your license.
Absolutely, yeah. So RECA is still, we will handle the competencies and the benchmarks for, you know, that any provider must meet. We also handle all of the exams, so that will be retained by RECA. So yes, relicensing falls under our mandate.
For the exams, yes. They're asking about course providers, like people taking courses.
That will again be open to all and any course providers. Yeah.
And perhaps our final question, will the Industry Council consider having a diversity committee to help understand different cultural issues within our industry?
I think that's a great idea. Yeah, that's something that we'll certainly take a look at. I think it's a great idea.
Okay. I think that's all the time we have for questions. Again, if we didn't get to the question and you've used your name, we'll get back to you with answers to your questions, or we'll forward it to the appropriate body, whether it's the board or a different industry council. Many of your questions did have to do with board issues, so we'll pass those along. And I'll leave it to you, Mr. Chair, to have the final word.
Well, thank you, Brian, for all your work in organizing this engagement session this morning. I know it's been a bit of work, and to everyone, to all our members out there, I want you to know that this is the first of many. We'll use your feedback to improve them. We want to do, you know, the best job we can. To my board, I want to thank you for all the work in your engagement, all the work that you've done. And I know we've been sort of drinking from the fire hose for the last, for the first 154 days. So it's been, but it's all been handled with finesse and a lot of etiquette, I guess. So thank you all. I appreciate your feedback, and we'll look forward to getting more feedback and serving you the best that we're able to. So thanks again. We'll look forward to hearing from you soon.